A Requiem for Innocence is the follow-up to the critically acclaimed The House in Fata Morgana. Despite being a follow-up, it's actually a prequel that fleshes out many of the details presented in the original game, so if you haven't played that yet, I definitely recommend clicking away from this video right now. Seriously. In The House in Fata Morgana, we learned of Jacopo's rise to Lordship briefly during his flashback. In this flashback, we learned exactly how he went from a friend of Morgana to the sadistic lord who would chop off her arm and lock her in a tower until she died. Personally, this was one of the only problems I had with the original visual novels. To me, it didn't seem so likely that someone could go through such a dramatic change so easily. So to have this be the crux of the issue that led to centuries of hatred and curses left me wanting for a bit more context on the matter. A Requiem for Innocence exists to do exactly that. The main section of the visual novel is split into 3 parts. The first part is set during Morgana's stay at the brothel where she learned that humans can be kind. The second is an intermission of sorts where we receive more backstory as one of the original characters for this game. And the third revolves around Jacopo's reigning as Lord and the events that caused him to change. In addition to this, we also receive some short stories that haven't been covered elsewhere, including the events following the reunited pair at the end of the game, a visitor at the mansion long before Giselle ever showed up, and a theoretical conversation best left for you to discover on your own. This prequel does nothing but add to the original. The flashback we saw towards the end of the game that led to Morgana's imprisonment is exactly what a Requiem of Innocence is about. But instead of being a short flashback, it's fleshed out to a roughly 13-hour story that only serves to improve and fill in the gaps. New characters are introduced, new context is added to events, and as can be expected of this series, there's enough misery and pity to last a lifetime. As this does center around the events of Jacopo's flashback, it goes without saying that everything we read about is present in this visual novel too, which means a lot of scenes are going to have to be read a second time. And if you're anything like me, you'll be too worried to miss something to consider skipping them. Beyond this slight issue, there really is nothing to complain about with this game. It's a long story that couldn't have been told in its entirety in the original without completely dividing the story, but it's also a story that's well worth reading for the context it adds to such an important event. Everything I felt was missing from this part of the game is shown, and it was certainly a welcome inclusion to be able to see how the events of Morgana's death actually transpired, instead of the altered version we see in the original based on the character's memories. If you enjoyed The House in Fata Morgana, I don't think there's any question as to whether you should play this prequel. It's one that felt entirely necessary, and not at all forced. You can purchase the base version of Steam right now, or go to the full remastered package on PS4 or PS Vita, which includes the base game, this, and a sequel titled Reincarnation, which I'll be uploading a video for momentarily.